Hello and welcome to another episode of Moose's Gear Goo Review. I'm Moose, and today we have a knife review. And that is of the Kershaw Link. But this isn't just any old Kershaw Link. This is the Kershaw Link in olive drab aluminum handle scales and in CPM-20CV. So I'm going to read off the specs and we'll get into this knife. So the overall length of this knife is 7.6 inches long. The blade length is 3¼ inches long. The blade thickness is 0.11 inches. The handle length is 4.4 inches long. The handle thickness is 0.49 inches thick. And the overall weight of this is 4.7 ounces. Now, that being said, I don't know. This is the first Link I've ever owned, handled, or reviewed. And I know when the Link first came out, it was a very, very popular knife. But we'll get into my thoughts and, pretty much my thoughts after I go through the overall design. So looking at the blade shape, it has a continuous belly upsweep with a drop point blade shape. And it has a hollow grind. If it is a hollow grind, it is a very shallow hollow grind, closer to a flat grind in my opinion. But, that's the way it's listed. It does have a swedge up top, just the Kershaw branding on the front here. Very nice edge, and it has a stonewash finish, which I like and prefer. Then on the back side, there's a lot more branding and titles. There's the model number 17760 LSW, U.S. patented. Got the American flag up there, and then let's see here. Oops, wrong way. We have the little blade steel, which is 20CV. Now, the 20CV blade steel was definitely the incentive for me to get this knife. 20CV is my favorite kind of super steel. Really love the stuff. Holds an edge tremendously well and just is solid. The blade is very nice. There is a ricasso there. There is no thumb studs or jimping on the top of the spine. And it is a designated flipper with the flipper tab that has jimping on it as well. That actually locks your finger in very well compared to some other knives that I've flipped. And it is a speed safe open. Now, typically on a speed safe knife, assisted opening knife, they have it printed, and it is printed down here, which I like. It's a lot more covert and small, so it doesn't take up a bunch of space. So I really appreciate that. But for some of you who don't like assisted openings, they might want to remove that tension bar. But other than that, it does snap out very, very well. And I believe it's on bronze phosphorus washers. But correct me if I'm wrong. Now, moving into the handle and the profile more or less is your standard Kershaw Link. But they have redesigned the actual handle scales on the aluminum version. If you got the standard aluminum versions, they were just a plain flat scale. Really didn't have any contouring or anything to provide traction. With this version, they have this kind of dip down cutout part on the top and the bottom here. And then on top of it, they have these like little tread marks added in there, which actually works pretty well, especially like a pinch grip. Right here. Usually you want a pinch grip up higher on the blade, but if you need to, just kind of rest your thumb there or something. It does add additional traction there. I do prefer a little bit of jimping on top, but that being said, it does have a nice finger guard there and enough curve to it and a dip in the spine of the handle to kind of lock your hand in. And it locks it in pretty well. So, I mean, in that capacity, it does lock. It is a full 4-finger grip. So the other thing with this version is it is an olive drab handle scale, which I think is the first time they offered it in this. and it seems to be kind of the handle color that they're using when they do come out with special versions of pre-existing designs. So this is the bare knuckle and olive drab, and kind of similar. This is more of a smoke wash finish, but you kind of get the idea that they like the olive drab aluminum handles. The other thing that they did was they changed the pocket clip, which I think is a huge improvement. I'm not a fan of just the flat, straight pocket clips that they had bolted back here. It wasn't deep carry, but this one is deep carry. The screws aren't recessed, so you still can't wear the thickest material, but it is an improvement, and for the most part, it works with most materials that I've worn. There is a lanyard hole, and the pocket clip is reversible, left, right, tip up only, and it is a liner lock. And yeah, so that's pretty much the knife as far as like overall looks and design. Now, my first impressions was after getting it, I didn't really look at the initial stats other than the blade steel. And like I said, 20CV is amazing. And I heard now they actually have a bare knuckle in 20CV. But when I saw the link, I always thought that it would be comparable to, this. When I got this, I was like, oh, this is really thin. It's a, nice thin blade, aluminum handles. I was always impressed with the Kershaw Knockout with a sub frame lock. So I was like, oh, this is pretty similar to the Knockout. They're both pretty light and slim. This is slim, and it has the speed safe technology in it, and it's just a killer. And it just whips out nice and thin, right? And two, it reminded me when I first saw it of another knife, the Kershaw Camber, as well. So, feeling these are all under 4 ounces. Some are a little bit heavier than others for the most part. This might be just over 4 ounces, but it's a wide blade. These are all under 4 ounces. But this thing's heavy, man. And that was kind of like a big disappointment. One was kind of like how thick the handle was. It's not overly thick, but, you have aluminum scales. I thought it'd be like more recessed in, but you can see the liners. It has full liners on either side, which, it makes it strong. And yes, it's solid. The lockup's really good. There's no wiggle or anything. It's just a very solid knife. But the blade stock's not tremendously thick by any means. And it just felt chunky and heavy for what I expected initially. Personally, I like my EDCs to be under 3 ounces. If I can, definitely under 4, 3.5, is acceptable for me. And to know that Kershaw can do it and keep it thin with these other amazing knives. This is the American made knives or whatever. I'll put a link in the description below for this one, but it's the M390 variant. But it's lightweight, lighter, and this was probably one of the knives that people slept on the most when it first came out. Kershaw Camber S30V blade steel. And this, I will say, does remind me the most of the Link. But I was just disappointed at how heavy it was and how thick the handle was. So just a comparison with those other Kershaws. So now, speaking of that, reminding me of a sweet spot. Now, this is a huge deal for me because when S30V was kind of the prime time steel, it was expensive, kind of a super steel when I first got into collecting. It was hard to find any knife with that type of steel for under $100. The first one, I think, was the Buck Vantage Pro. I think it was the cheapest you could find S30V. This isn't it here, but they did have one with S30V, and that was like a huge deal. And the knife community was just like, that's the best knife for the price. Kershaw came out with this after the Blur, and they figured this was one of those knives that people it didn't pick up. Aluminum scales, thin, lightweight, spring-assisted opening, pops out, great blade shape. There's no branding on that blade. It's pretty clean. S30V, But for whatever reason, nobody picked up on this knife. And it even has like an improved deep carry pocket clip compared to the super thin. I mean, look at how thin. You can't fit anything in there, but this one's a little bit taller and you can fit stuff over. So, I mean, everything was great with this knife, but it didn't pick up steam. So really disappointed with it. But regardless of that, I feel it's kind of the same lines with this version of the Link, because this knife was only like after taxes about $80, $80 for CPM-20CV. Hogue Knives released a knife. I think it was for the time one of the cheaper ones with 20CV, and that was like $150. So to find 20CV on a blade under $100, you know, regardless of the weight, this is definitely the one to check out. So if you're looking to try out that blade steel and you're a budget EDCer, this is your chance, and I do recommend this for that. I mean, the build quality is there, but if you're also an EDCer who doesn't like a heavy pocket, you might want to pass on this for the time being, because it is, you know, over 4.5 ounces, which is really kind of pushing it. That being said, let's do a quick comparison. Obviously, you got all these other Kershaws here. I'll pull out this one because I think this is a great value for $50. My beloved Bird Raven 2. We also got the HVOS Voxnace design there. And heck, we'll throw on the Spyderco Pure Military 3. There you have it. Blade-wise, you know, it's 3 1/4 inches, comparable to all these. This was a long one, the bare knuckle. Blade thickness, though, you know, for the weight, the Kershaws are pretty similar with the blade thickness there. Blade length, weight, this one's heavier. Bare knuckle is a great knife. Check it out. I'll put a link to that too down below. The HVOS, little slightly thicker blade stock. But this one's lighter, has that field strip technology. Really cool knife. Dig it. The Bird Raven 2, excellent knife for the price. Honestly, just, I don't know, just a crazy good knife. But once again, this blade steel just kind of trumps everything. Blade thickness, though, you can see how thick that Raven is. This is just an awesome knife as well. And then pair 3, a little bit thicker blade stock, but you know, doesn't even compare as far as weight. And like I said, guys, like honestly, 20CV blade steel, I guess the only gripe I really have for this is the weight. But let's check it out and test it with our beloved ugly brown glove test. Once again, aluminum with no jimping. That top thumb is kind of slick, but because of the grooves and kind of the finger trail, it does kind of hold into place. Pinching on those little treads there does help it, but for the most part, you're definitely not going to slide up with that finger guard. It is definitely one of the stronger speed safe torsion bars I've ever had to combat, because I really can't close it one-handed. I mean, I can, but with the lack of grip with the aluminum scales and lack of texture, I don't think I can do it with this glove. Oh, gloved hand. What is going on? Okay, there's a struggle. Got it. And guys, I'm not playing. Like, sure, I can deploy it well, which is good. I can unlock it, but I can't close it one-handed. So does it pass? Not really. I wouldn't really use it with a cloth glove by any means. Definitely use it barehanded, potentially with a leather glove. It should be fine, but I'd give it like a C minus. I probably should give it like a D. All right, guys, so there you have it. That is the Kershaw bare knuckle. Really awesome slicer. Does work well as a knife, just a little bit heavy in pocket. Definitely an improvement on the pocket clip and on the texture and on the blade steel. So if you're looking for a chance to check out the Kershaw Link, definitely check out this version. Like I said, around $70 to $80. And I'll leave links in the description below. So thank you, guys. Please leave any comments or questions down below. Like, comment, and subscribe. Check out these other videos, and I'll see you outside. Peace.